Welcome to this presentation on the effective use of graphs in T-level science and healthcare science. Today we will explore various types of graphs, how to use them in presentations, reports and discussions, and the considerations to make them when selecting the most appropriate way to present information and data. Here's an overview of what we will discuss today. Let's get started with our first topic, importance of graphs. Graphs are a powerful tool that helps in visualizing complex data, making it easier to interpret and communicate. In science and healthcare science, accurate data representation is crucial for analysis, decision-making, and conveying information to various audiences. Graphs play a crucial role in the initial stages of data interpretation, starting with data collection. While graphs are not used directly during data collection, understanding how you might later visualize the data helps you determine what information to gather. For instance, knowing that you will need to create a bar chart might lead you to collect categorical data on various groups. Proper data collection ensures that you have the relevant information to represent effectively. Once data is collected, data cleaning is the next essential step. This involves removing errors, inconsistencies, or irrelevant information from your data set. Graphs help in this stage by providing a visual representation of the data, which can make it easier to spot anomalies, outliers, or missing values. For example, a scatter plot can reveal clustering or gaps in your data, guiding you to clean it more effectively. Data analysis involves examining and interpreting data to uncover patterns, trends, or relationships. Graphs are powerful tools in this stage because they make complex data more understandable. For instance, a line graph can illustrate trends over time, while a scatter plot can show correlations between variables. By visualizing your data, you can more easily identify significant patterns and draw meaningful conclusions. Choosing the right type of graph is crucial for effective data presentation. The choice of graph depends on the nature of your data and the message you want to convey. For example, if you want to show how different groups compare, a bar chart is suitable. For displaying trends over time, a line graph is ideal. Proper graph selection ensures that your data is represented in a way that best communicates your findings. Creating graph involves plotting the clean data and selecting appropriate design elements. During this phase, you can convert your data into visual format, making sure it's clear, accurate, and effective. Attention to detail in graph creation, such as labeling axes and choosing the right scales, ensures that your audience can easily interpret the data. Well-designed graphs provide clarity and enhance understanding. Finally, presenting your graph involves integrating them into reports or presentations and explaining their significance. Effective presentation of graphs help convey your analysis and conclusions to your audience. By explaining key trends, patterns, and insights shown in the graphs, you make your data accessible and understandable. Properly presented graphs can support your arguments and make your findings more compelling. When sharing, effective communication is key, and graphs are powerful tools in this regard. Let's explore how graphs such as bar graphs enhance communication compared to tables. Graphs provide a visual summary of data that can simplify complex information. For instance, consider a table with numerous data points and rows. While a table is precise, it can be overwhelming and difficult for the audience to quickly grasp the overall trends or comparisons. In contrast, a bar graph visualizes the same data in a straightforward manner, allowing viewers to immediately see difference between categories. This visual representation helps to convey information more clearly and quickly. A bar graph makes it easier to highlight key examples. For example, a bar graph can instantly show which categories have the highest or lowest values, helping to focus attention on important data points. This is particularly useful when you need to emphasize certain trends or comparisons. And a table such as insights might be buried among many numbers, making it harder for the audience to identify the most critical information. Graphs excels in making comparisons. In a bar graph, the length of each bar represents value, making it simple to compare multiple categories at a glance. This visual comparison is much quicker than examining individual values in a table. For example, you can easily see which bar is the tallest or shortest, facilitating a faster understanding of relative sizes or differences. And graphs are particularly useful for showing trends over time. While a table can list data points chronologically, a line graph or a bar graph can visually depict how values change over time. This makes it easier to identify pattern, and in this case, such as increases, but also decreases, and to see the overall trajectory. Graphs are often engage audiences more effectively than tables. A well-designed graph with clear labels and colours can capture attention and make the data more memorable. Graphs can also be tailored to highlight specific aspects of the data that are most relevant to the audience, making the communication more targeted and effective. In contrast, tables might not be as engaging and can sometimes lead to disengagement if they're too dense or detailed. There are several types of graph, each serving a unique purpose. Line graphs are excellent for showing trends over time. Bar charts compare different groups. Scatter plots highlight relationships between variables. Box and whisper plots display data distribution. And flowcharts illustrate processes. Selecting the appropriate graph depends on the type of data you have and the message you want to convey. Consider your audience and the purpose of your presentation. Ensure the graph is simple, clear, and effectively communicates your data. This flowchart helps you to decide the best graph for your data based on the number of variables, the type of data, and the purpose of the graph. Let's walk through the flowchart together. We start by determining the type of data you have. The first decision point asks you to identify the number of variables you are working with, a single variable, two variables, or multiple variables. If you have a single variable, the next step is to determine if your data is categorical or numerical. Categorical data can be presented with bar charts and pie charts, and numerical data is best visualized with histograms or box plots. For two variables, the decision depends on whether your data pairs a categorical variable with a numerical one, or if both variables are numerical. Categorical and numeral data combinations are often best shown with bar charts. If both variables are numerical, scatter plots and line graphs are appropriate. When dealing with multiple variables, we consider the purpose of the graph. If your goal is to compare data, grouped bar charts work well. For distribution analysis, box plots and histograms are suitable. To show composition, use stat bar charts or pie charts. And finally, to illustrate relationship between variables, scatter plots and line graphs are ideal. This flowchart helps you to navigate through these decisions to select the graph type that best communicates your data. Modern software tools like Excel make it easier to create various types of graphs. By entering your data into a spreadsheet, you can use built-in functions to generate graphical representations. It is important to ensure that your graphs are well labeled, appropriately scaled, and visually appealing. Creating effective graphs is crucial for clear communication of data. Here are some essential tips to help you design impactful graphs. First, selecting the appropriate type of graph based on the data and the message you want to convey is the first step in creating an effective graph. Use the decision flowchart to guide your choice. Next, simplicity is key. Avoid unnecessary elements that can clutter the graph and distract from the main message. Focus on the essential points. Next, you must ensure all axes, data points, and legends are clearly labelled. This helps the audience understand what the graph is showing without confusion. Next, in the steps, maintain consistent scales and units across your graph. This inconsistency helps in making accurate comparisons and prevents misleading interpretations. Followed by using techniques like bold lines, contrasting colours, or annotations to highlight important data points or trends. This directs the audience's attention to critical information. Colours can enhance a graph, but should be used wisely. Choose colour schemes that are accessible to all viewers, including those with colour blindness. Avoid using too many colours, which can be distracting. Next, include necessary context such as data sources, timeframes, and relevant notes. This provides a complete picture and helps the audience understand the background and significance of the data. And finally, present data accurately without distortion. Ensure that graph scales is appropriate and does not exaggerate or minimize the data. Misleading graphs can damage credibility. When presenting graphs in reports, it's essential to integrate them seamlessly into your text. Use captions, refer to them in your discussion, and ensure they are placed close to the relevant content. Proper formatting and clear labeling are key to make your graphs effective. In presentations, graphs should be clear and easy to read. Use high contrast colours, large text for labels, and avoid clutter. Explain the key points of the graph to engage your audience and highlight the most important data trends or findings. When communicating results verbally, tailor your language to your audience level of understanding. Use graphs to support your points, providing a visual aid that can clarify complex information and make your presentation more compelling. Let's explore tips for verbally presenting data graphs. Summary first. Begin by highlighting the main conclusions or insights from the data before dividing into detail. This helps your audience understand the core message immediately. Next, explain graphs clearly. Describe what each axis represents and point out important trends, patterns, or data points. Make sure your audience knows how to read and interpret the graph. Use simple language. Avoid technical terms that might confuse your audience. Aim for clarity and simplicity in your explanation. Provide context. Explain how the data fits into broader context or compares to past data, benchmarks, or expectations. This helps the audience understand the significance of the results. And then finally, engage with your audience. Encourage questions and discussions to ensure understanding and to make the presentation more interactive. Use questions or prompts to engage your audience and clarify any uncertainties. Common mistakes in graph presentations include overcomplicating the graph, using misleading or poor labeling. Ensure your graph accurately represents the data and is easy to understand. Focus on clarity by including only the necessary data and removing any unnecessary embellishments. Stick to simple, straightforward designs. Avoid using 3D effects, excessive colours, or complicated patterns that can distract from the data. Only display data series that are essential for the message you are conveying. Too many series can overwhelm or confuse the viewer. Ensure that the scales on your graph are consistent and accurately represent the data. Never truncate the y-axis in a way that exaggerates differences between data points. This can mislead viewers about the significance of the data. Choose a scale intervals that are logical and make the data easy to interpret. Uneven intervals can distort perceptions of the data. Make sure all elements of your graph are clearly labeled and understandable. Provide a clear, concise title that explains what the graph is about. Use readable fonts and size. Ensure that labels and legends are large enough to be easily read. Select a graph type that best represents the data and messages you want to convey. Label both the x-axis and y-axis with units of measurements in descriptive terms. This helps viewers understand what each axis represents. Use line graphs for trends over time, bar graphs for comparing quantities, pie charts for showing proportions, etc. Choosing the right type of graph helps in effectively communicating your data. For simple comparisons or trends, avoid complex graphs like stacked area charts or multiple axis graphs unless they are necessary. Review and test your graph to ensure it communicates the intended message effectively. Show your graph to others to see if they interpret it as you intended. They might point out areas that need clarification. Verify all data points and calculations. Double check for any inconsistencies or errors before finalizing the graph. By following these tips, you can create graphs that are both informative and easy to understand, avoiding common pitfalls that can obscure or misrepresent your data. So let's explore techniques for exam and real-world application, beginning with analysing graph trends. Identify key trends, increasing or decreasing, so looking upwards or downwards the trends, or is it constant, so flat lines indicate no change. In regards to patterns relationship, determine if variables move in relation to each other, so correlations, or in regards to outliers, spot any data points that significantly deviate from the trends. In regards to exam techniques, start by reading the title and labels carefully to understand what the graph represents. Focus on what the exam question is asking. Look for specific trends or data points mentioned. Identify and highlight or note key features of the graph, such as peaks, troughs, or patterns, and be precise in describing what the graphs show. Use correct terminology and avoid making unsupported claims. In regards to real-world application, use graphs to inform decisions, such as assessing market trends or analysing performance metrics. Create or interpret graphs to present data clearly to others. Ensure the graph supports your arguments and findings. Analyze graphs to solve problems or make predictions based on visual data insights. And finally, some practical tips. Verify data from graphs with other sources if available. The more you practice interpreting different types of graphs, the more proficient you'll become. Discuss graph interpretations with peers or tutors to refine your understanding and approach. So our key takeaways from today's presentation. They help visualize and interpret complex data. Different types of graphs have different purposes. Choose the correct graph based on your data type and the message you want to convey. Focus on simplicity, clear labels, consistent scales, and appropriate use of. Integrate graphs with clear captions and proper placement in reports, and ensure clarity in high contrast and large text with key points in presentations. When verbally presenting data, start with those key takeaways. Explain graphs clearly, use simple language, provide context, and engage your audience. And simplify graphs. Use consistent scales, label clearly, choose the right type, and test for clarity and accuracy. Use graphs for decision-making, communication, and problem solving. By following these guidelines, you'll be able to create, present, and interpret graphs more effectively, enhancing your data communication skills in science and healthcare science. Thank you very much for joining me in this recording. Please take a few minutes to complete this feedback form. Your insights are very valuable. So overall, this T-level science and healthcare science content buster provides a comprehensive overview of essential topics, fostering a deep understanding of graphs and their application. Thank you for joining us in this bite-sized session.